Of the hundreds or thousands of shrouds like this that exist, why do we think this one has an image of Jesus on it?
All of it matches the way in which Jesus was crucified. For example, on the shroud, we have blood all over it. And so this is human blood. It's male blood. It's not blood of an animal. All of this bears correspondence with what we read in the Gospels about how Jesus died.
For centuries, a single piece of cloth has haunted the world. A linen shroud said to carry the face of a man who endured unimaginable suffering. Scientists dismissed it as myth, while believers hailed it as divine proof. But when artificial intelligence was finally called upon, it uncovered something far stranger than anyone could have imagined. Hidden geometry, repeating codes, and a design that should never have existed in ancient fabric. Was it a miraculous sign, a chilling deception, or something far more terrifying? What is the Shroud of Turin hiding? And will the truth ever be revealed?
And what's more, photography meant that the image of the shroud could travel far and wide, and interest in it began to grow around the world.
Otherwise, it's not possible, because it's exactly the signs which we find also on the shroud in Turin.
The Shroud of Turin measures around 14 feet in length and just over 3 feet in width. It is made from linen, woven in a herringbone twill pattern, which catches light in a way that makes it appear almost alive, rippling like the surface of water. What sets this cloth apart, however, is the faint image imprinted upon it, showing the figure of a man from head to feet, front and back. The image is ghostly and ethereal, as if the body at once wrapped departed without disturbing the fabric at all. Over time, the image has been interpreted by some as proof of a miracle, while others see it as a mere artifact of human craftsmanship.
A previous pope wrote the shroud was, quote, a truly mysterious image which no human artistry was capable of producing. Lair, but we have the book, the broadcast, and now the app.
The image itself is perplexing. The face, faintly visible, does not shout for attention. It hovers, eyes closed, beard parted, and hair flowing in a way that seems to defy the usual patterns of naturalistic art. The figure is marked by wounds on the wrists, which correspond to where nails would have pierced, a blood-like stain at the feet, and a suggestive oval on the side that points to a spear wound. Even more haunting are the faint impressions of a crown of thorns that seem to have pressed into the fabric. The story of the shroud is not just about its image, but about the journey it has taken through history. Its first documented appearance was in the 13th century in France, where it was displayed for public viewing. As news of the cloth spread, pilgrims flocked to see it, and the church used it as a symbol of faith. But not everyone believed in its authenticity. Skeptics argued that the church had created a spectacle, and for centuries the shroud moved through hands and homes, its authenticity questioned at every turn. In 1578, the shroud was brought to Turin, where it remained for centuries, hidden from view, protected and preserved in the House of Savoy. Despite the protection, the shroud has faced numerous threats, including fire and smoke damage. It wasn't until modern times that the shroud was placed under the scrutiny of the scientific world, and in 1898, a pivotal moment occurred. Lawyer Secondo Pia took a photograph of the shroud in a makeshift darkroom, expecting little more than a blurry image. Instead, what he developed was startling. The face on the shroud, previously faint, appeared with startling clarity. In the negative of the photograph, the image on the cloth became more pronounced, and features like the cheekbones, lips, and hair were more clearly defined. This reversal, where the negative became a positive, was not proof of anything definitive, but it did shift the conversation. Suddenly, the shroud was no longer just a religious relic. It had become a scientific puzzle. The negative photograph changed the way people thought about the shroud. No longer just a matter of faith, it was now a problem for scientists, one that invited experimentation and scrutiny. Over the course of the 20th century, experts in various fields, from chemistry to forensic science, began to examine the cloth. Chemists tested the fibers, microscopes zoomed in on the threads, and forensic examiners studied the bloodstains and other marks. The tests revealed some intriguing results, but none were definitive enough to answer the ultimate question of the shroud's origin. What was particularly puzzling was the way the image interacted with light. The shroud's image did not behave like paint or dye, which would have left brush strokes or capillary penetration into the fibers. Instead, the discoloration seemed to rest only on the very tips of the fibers, almost as if the image had been kissed by light and left undisturbed. Forensic researchers even created depth maps from the intensity of the image, showing a correlation between the darkness of the image and the theoretical distance from the surface of a body. This raised questions about how the image could have been formed in such a way that it seemed to reflect depth, a feature typically absent from conventional paintings or images. For a long time, the shroud defied easy explanation. In 1988, the debate reached a new milestone when 3 laboratories conducted radiocarbon dating on a small sample of the cloth. The results placed the shroud's origin between the 13th and 14th centuries, effectively dating it to the medieval period. For many, this was seen as the final verdict, and the mystery appeared to be solved. The shroud, it seemed, was a clever medieval forgery, created during a time of increasing interest in relics and religious artifacts. However, this conclusion did not end the controversy. While the radiocarbon dating was widely accepted, some questioned the accuracy of the sample. The portion of the shroud tested came from a corner near the edge, a part that had been repaired and handled many times over the centuries. Some experts argued that the corner could have been altered or contaminated by later materials, potentially skewing the results. The radiocarbon dating was not enough to silence the debate. It only fueled further questions about the true age of the cloth and the methods used to determine its origin. In the face of uncertainty, the shroud continued to resist a definitive explanation. Its mysterious image, the blood-like stains, and the peculiarities of the fabric itself prompted further investigation. Scientists examined the twist of the yarn, compared it with known textiles from the Levant, and even tested pollen samples that seemed consistent with the flora of the Eastern Mediterranean. Each of these tests offered more clues, but nothing conclusive enough to end the debate once and for all. The shroud, it seemed, was as much a riddle as it was a relic. And yet, even in the face of all this uncertainty, the mystery of the shroud continued to captivate people's imaginations. The debate between believers and skeptics persisted, each side holding fast to its own theories, while the shroud remained an enigma. It was a symbol of both faith and mystery, a piece of cloth that had withstood centuries of scrutiny but still held secrets that no one could unravel. As scientists and believers alike continued to search for answers, the Shroud of Turin became not just a physical object, but a puzzle that transcended history, science, and religion. The Shroud of Turin, with its ethereal image and mysterious history, has long been the subject of debate between believers who see it as a miraculous relic and skeptics who view it as a medieval forgery. Over the years, the scientific community has approached the shroud with a mix of fascination and caution, subjecting it to numerous analyses in the hopes of uncovering the truth about its origins and the method by which the image was formed. Despite these efforts, no conclusive answers have emerged, and the shroud continues to hold its secrets close. In the 20th century, the shroud became the focus of intense scientific scrutiny. As the years passed, it became clear that the image on the cloth did not behave like typical pigment or dye. Traditional methods of art creation, such as painting, would leave behind discernible brushstrokes, capillary penetration into the fibers, or evidence of a binder to hold the pigment in place. However, the shroud defied these expectations. The image appeared to rest on the very surface of the fibers, almost as if it had been kissed by light, leaving no trace of a pigment binder or brushstrokes. This peculiar quality of the image led to a series of studies by scientists from various fields, including chemistry, physics, and forensic science. The first major breakthrough came in the early 1970s, when physicist Ray Rogers and his team used ultraviolet light to examine the cloth. They discovered that the image responded to light in ways that suggested it was not a typical painting. The fibers where the image appeared to rest were not penetrated by the pigments as one might expect. Instead, the discoloration seemed to be confined to the outermost fibers of the linen, where it sat gently on the surface, untouched by the deeper layers of the fabric. This discovery, while intriguing, only raised more questions about how such an effect could be achieved, especially given the shroud's age. One of the most significant pieces of evidence that challenged the belief in a medieval origin for the shroud came from the 1898 photograph taken by Secondo Pia. When Pia developed his photograph, he expected a blurry, indistinct image, but what he discovered was something entirely different. The negative he developed revealed a face, with startling clarity, that had previously been nearly invisible to the naked eye. This reversal of the image, where the negative appeared as a positive, led many to believe that the shroud's image could not have been produced by ordinary methods. If the image was a result of painting, stamping, or any other conventional technique, it seemed impossible that it could behave in this way. The discovery shifted the conversation about the shroud from the realm of faith to the domain of science, and for the first time, it was viewed as both a religious artifact and a scientific puzzle. The new wave of scientific inquiry focused not just on the image itself, but also on the various stains and markings found on the cloth. The most prominent of these marks are the blood-like stains that appear on the shroud, most notably in the areas corresponding to the wrists, feet, and side. Forensic scientists and chemists began to study these stains in greater detail, hoping to uncover their origin and determine if they were consistent with the wounds described in the Gospel accounts. One of the most intriguing findings was that the blood stains appeared to be on top of the image itself, not underneath it. This suggested that the image was formed after the blood had already stained the cloth, further complicating the question of how both the image and the stains could coexist on the same piece of fabric. The blood stains also presented their own set of mysteries. While scientists were able to confirm that the stains were indeed human blood, they were unable to determine whether the blood had been transferred in the same way that a painter would apply pigment to a canvas, or whether it had been absorbed through some other means. Further examination revealed that the blood had a distinctive type of protein and was consistent with the kind of blood one would expect from a person who had suffered from extreme trauma. Yet, despite these findings, the blood stains did not offer conclusive evidence about the shroud's origin or how it had come to be marked in this way. As the years went by, the shroud continued to defy explanation. In the 1970s and 1980s, various scientific teams took their own approaches to studying the fabric. Textile experts studied the weave of the linen itself, comparing it to other ancient textiles from the Mediterranean region. They found that the shroud's weave was consistent with those used in the Levant, the area around modern-day Israel, suggesting that the cloth could have originated in that region. However, this was far from proof of the shroud's true origin, and the dating of the shroud remained a contentious issue. In 1988, a decisive moment in the shroud's scientific history came when radiocarbon dating was performed on a small sample of the cloth. 3 separate laboratories, in Oxford, Zurich, and Arizona, conducted the tests, and the results placed the shroud's creation squarely in the medieval period, between 1260 and 1390 AD. For many, this seemed to be the final word on the shroud's age, and the theory that it was a medieval forgery appeared to be confirmed. However, the results were not universally accepted, and doubts began to surface almost immediately. The corner of the shroud that was chosen for the radiocarbon dating had been subject to extensive handling and repair over the centuries. Some experts argued that the sample taken from this area might not accurately represent the age of the entire cloth. Textile specialist Raymond Rogers suggested that the sample may have included later threads that had been added during repairs. These threads could have skewed the results, leading to a younger date than the shroud actually deserved. Others pointed to the cleaning process used on the sample, which may have introduced additional factors that could have affected the results. Despite the best efforts of the radiocarbon dating laboratories, it was clear that the shroud's age remained an open question. The controversies surrounding the shroud's age did not end with the radiocarbon dating. In the years that followed, new methods of analysis emerged, and researchers began to take a closer look at the factors that might influence the results. One area of focus was the shroud's pollen. Researchers found traces of pollen from plants native to the eastern Mediterranean, which suggested that the cloth might have been exposed to the environment in that region. This finding added weight to the theory that the shroud might be older than the medieval date suggested, though it was still not definitive proof of its origin. Despite the challenges posed by the radiocarbon dating and other scientific investigations, the shroud remained an object of intense interest. Scientists continued to probe the cloth, seeking new ways to uncover the truth behind its mysterious image. The shroud's resistance to simple explanations only fueled the debate, and the scientific community remained divided. Some argued that the shroud was a brilliant medieval work of art, while others maintained that it was a genuine relic from the time of Christ. What was clear, however, was that the Shroud of Turin would continue to defy categorization, inviting both reverence and skepticism from all who encountered it. The journey of the shroud through the centuries is far from over. As scientific techniques continue to evolve, the possibility of uncovering new insights into the shroud's origins remains tantalizing. And while the debate over its authenticity may never be settled, the shroud's place in history is assured. It stands as a testament to the enduring power of mystery, science, and faith, a relic that will continue to challenge our understanding of history, art, and the very nature of belief. As the scientific community continued to grapple with the Shroud of Turin's many mysteries, a new tool entered the fray: artificial intelligence. Until this point, the shroud had been examined using traditional methods of scientific inquiry, radiocarbon dating, chemical analysis, forensic investigations, and microscopy. These methods had provided valuable insights but had not been able to definitively answer the most pressing questions surrounding the shroud. Could AI, with its ability to detect hidden patterns and analyze large data sets, offer a new way forward? This was the question that researchers began to ask as the shroud was brought into the realm of computational analysis. The first step in this new approach was to bring the shroud's image into the digital age. High-resolution photographs of the shroud had existed for decades, with some of the most detailed images captured in multispectral sets that used ultraviolet and infrared light to reveal hidden aspects of the cloth. These photographs, however, were just raw data, highly detailed images that lacked the ability to be analyzed in the same way a human might examine them. That was where AI came in. Artificial intelligence, particularly machine learning, is designed to sift through massive amounts of data and identify patterns that might be invisible to the human eye. The shroud's image, with its strange and inexplicable qualities, was an ideal candidate for such analysis. Researchers fed the high-resolution images of the shroud into AI systems trained to detect weak signals, patterns, and correlations. What they uncovered was a series of anomalies that went beyond the limits of human perception and traditional analysis. One of the first techniques employed was principal component analysis, or PCA. PCA is a statistical method that reduces the complexity of large datasets by identifying the underlying patterns. When applied to the shroud's image, PCA revealed a striking level of order and symmetry, not just in the image's visible features, but also in the subtle variations in intensity across the cloth. The face, the torso, and other parts of the body, previously difficult to discern, began to reveal themselves in greater detail. The symmetry appeared to be much more than an accidental byproduct of the cloth's texture or the way light interacted with it. The AI system detected a consistent pattern that seemed to imply an underlying structure, something far more organized than one would expect from a simple piece of fabric. The next step was to apply convolutional neural networks (CNNs) to the shroud's images. CNNs are a type of machine learning algorithm that has been used to great effect in image recognition tasks. When applied to the shroud, CNNs allowed the system to detect even finer patterns and correlations. The AI system did not simply look for the obvious shapes of a face, arms, and legs, but also sought out smaller, more subtle features. The way the fibers of the cloth seemed to react to light, the way certain areas of the cloth appeared to have been affected by distance rather than direct contact. The results were even more surprising than anticipated. The AI identified areas of the shroud that showed repeating patterns, geometries that could not be explained by the cloth's natural weave or by any form of artifice. What the AI uncovered was not simply a photograph of a man, as many had assumed. It was something deeper, something more complex. The cloth seemed to be imprinted with a form of spatial intelligence, where the geometry of the image appeared to reflect the relationship between the body and the cloth in a way that was far more sophisticated than any known artistic method could produce. The AI's findings suggested that the image on the shroud was not simply the result of physical contact between a body and the cloth. Instead, it appeared to encode information about the distance between the body and the fabric, as well as the intensity of light that interacted with the cloth at different points. This revelation was both remarkable and unsettling. For decades, scientists had struggled to explain how the shroud's image could be so clear and precise, despite the fact that it seemed to defy the natural laws of image making. The AI's analysis provided a new perspective. The shroud's image might not have been created by traditional means at all, but by some unknown process that encoded information about distance and light into the fabric. This could explain why the image seemed to have such a strange depth, with darker areas corresponding to parts of the body that were closer to the cloth and lighter areas indicating parts that were farther away. It was as if the shroud itself was a kind of map, recording the way light and space interacted with the body, rather than simply a static image made by human hands. The implications of this discovery were profound. If the shroud's image was not a product of paint, dye, or any other traditional artistic technique, then what could have caused it? Was it some sort of natural phenomenon, like ultraviolet radiation, or a burst of energy that imprinted the image onto the cloth in a way that was completely unlike anything known to science? Or was it the result of a process that was simply beyond our current understanding? The AI's findings also led researchers to re-examine the blood-like stains that were found on the shroud. For years, scientists had been puzzled by the fact that the blood stains seemed to sit on top of the image rather than being beneath it. This had led some to speculate that the image and the stains were created by separate processes. AI provided further evidence to support this theory, showing that the geometry of the image remained consistent even in areas where the blood stains were present. It was as if the image was unaffected by the stains, suggesting that they were the result of a different process entirely. The AI analysis also revealed something else that had previously gone unnoticed. In certain parts of the shroud, faint symmetries appeared around the face and chest that did not match known fabric folds or the artifacts produced by the camera. These symmetrical patterns persisted across different image transforms and remained visible even when obvious noise was removed. Some researchers were quick to dismiss these findings as potential artifacts of the image processing techniques, but the AI's ability to detect them across different filters and methods made it difficult to ignore. The question then arose, could these symmetries represent something beyond mere coincidence? Could they be a clue to the shroud's true origin, or were they simply a result of the way light and fabric interacted? The revelation of these patterns was a game-changer for the shroud's scientific investigation. For decades, the debate had focused on whether the image was a product of human craftsmanship, a miraculous imprint, or some combination of the two. The introduction of AI into the equation opened up new avenues of inquiry, shifting the focus from theological debates to more empirical questions about the nature of the shroud's image. Could AI provide a more precise understanding of how the image was formed? Could it reveal hidden structures that were previously overlooked by traditional methods of analysis? AI did not offer a final answer, but it did shift the paradigm in which the shroud was understood. The question of how the image was formed remained unresolved, but the AI's analysis provided a new framework for approaching the mystery. Rather than simply asking whether the shroud was a fake or a miracle, researchers began to focus on the nature of the image itself, its geometry, its spatial properties, and the way it interacted with light. In many ways, the AI's findings did not solve the mystery, but opened up a new set of questions, ones that would require further investigation and experimentation. The AI's role in the Shroud's investigation was not just to answer the questions posed by scientists and believers, but to ask better questions. It did not bring faith or skepticism to the table. Instead, it approached the Shroud with the impartiality of a tool, designed to uncover patterns in data. It did not seek to prove or disprove the Shroud's authenticity. Instead, it sought to understand the image on a deeper level, to reveal its hidden structure, and to provide insights that could guide future research. In this way, AI became not a competitor to traditional scientific methods, but a companion, offering new ways to view the Shroud, without the bias of belief or disbelief. As the investigation into the Shroud of Turin continues, the role of AI will only become more important. Its ability to analyze complex data sets and uncover patterns that the human eye cannot perceive makes it an invaluable tool in the quest to understand one of the most perplexing relics in history. Whether AI will ever provide a definitive answer to the Shroud's mystery remains to be seen, but it has already shown that there is much more to the cloth than meets the eye. For now, the Shroud remains an enigma, its secrets hidden in plain sight, waiting for new methods of analysis and fresh perspectives to unlock them. As the mystery of the Shroud of Turin continues to captivate the world, it is clear that the debate surrounding its authenticity and origin will never be fully resolved. The cloth has defied easy explanation for centuries, leaving believers, scientists, and skeptics to argue its true nature. Over time, the Shroud has taken on a significance that goes beyond its physical presence. It has become a symbol of faith, a relic of historical importance, and a puzzle that science has yet to crack. But in the midst of this ongoing investigation, one thing remains certain: the Shroud of Turin continues to fascinate and intrigue people across the globe. Despite the vast amount of research and analysis that has been carried out on the Shroud, it remains elusive. For every breakthrough, there are still more questions that arise. The scientific community has yet to find definitive evidence that answers the most fundamental questions about the Shroud's image, its age, and its origins. Some argue that it is a medieval forgery, created by skilled artisans using techniques lost to history. Others maintain that it is a genuine relic, a physical trace of an extraordinary event. No matter how much data is gathered, no matter how many tests are conducted, the Shroud continues to resist simple categorization. The introduction of artificial intelligence into the investigation has provided new insights, but it has not brought the debate to a close. AI has revealed hidden patterns and structures in the Shroud's image that were previously unnoticed, but it has not provided a conclusive answer to the question of how the image was formed. The AI's ability to detect subtle symmetries and correlations in the cloth's weave has opened up new possibilities for understanding the Shroud, but it has also raised more questions. What process could have created such an image? Was it the result of a natural phenomenon, or was it the product of human hands? And if it was created by human hands, what method was used to achieve such a detailed, accurate image without the use of pigments or dyes? One of the most fascinating aspects of the Shroud is its apparent ability to withstand the passage of time. Despite the countless tests and experiments that have been conducted on the cloth, it remains remarkably well preserved. The Shroud has survived fires, floods, and the ravages of centuries, and its image continues to endure. This resilience has led some to view the Shroud as a symbol of endurance, something that has survived through the ages to tell its story. But it has also led to questions about the preservation of the cloth itself. How has it managed to retain its image so clearly, even after so many years? And what does its survival tell us about the forces at play in its creation? In the scientific world, the Shroud is often viewed as a case study in the limitations of human knowledge. Despite the best efforts of researchers, the shroud continues to defy explanation. It is a reminder that there are still mysteries in the world that cannot be easily solved. The shroud challenges our understanding of science, art, and history, and it forces us to confront the limitations of our own understanding. It is a relic that refuses to be understood in simple terms, and this has contributed to its lasting appeal. The shroud's mystery also continues to invite new theories and ideas. Some researchers suggest that the image on the shroud is not the result of a physical process at all, but rather a kind of imprint left by a supernatural force. Others argue that the shroud may have been created using a technique that is completely unknown to modern science. While these theories may seem far-fetched to some, they highlight the central question that has driven the shroud's investigation: what caused the image? Could it have been created by a process that we have yet to discover, or does the shroud point to something beyond our current understanding? One of the most persistent questions surrounding the shroud is its age. The radiocarbon dating results from 1988 placed the shroud's origin in the medieval period, but this conclusion has been met with skepticism. Critics argue that the sample used for the dating test may have been contaminated, leading to an inaccurate result. Others point to the possibility that the shroud could be much older than the radiocarbon dating suggests, with evidence such as the pollen grains found on the cloth, hinting at a possible connection to the ancient world. Despite the uncertainties surrounding the dating, the question of the shroud's age remains central to the debate over its authenticity. If the shroud is medieval, then it is likely a forgery, but if it is much older, it could be a genuine relic from the time of Christ. The shroud's place in history is also a subject of ongoing debate. Some see it as a relic of immense historical and religious significance, a physical trace of the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. Others view it as a powerful symbol of the intersection of faith and science, representing the ongoing search for meaning and truth in a world that often seems divided by these two forces. Whether the shroud is truly a relic of Christ's burial or a medieval its continued existence serves as a reminder of the complexity and mystery of the human experience. It is a symbol of the search for answers to the biggest questions of life, death, and faith. As the debate continues, the shroud remains a subject of fascination for people of all faiths and backgrounds. Its image has inspired countless works of art, literature, and theology, and it continues to provoke deep questions about the nature of life, death, and the divine. For believers, the shroud is a symbol of Christ's suffering and resurrection, a tangible link to the events of the past. For skeptics, it is a challenge to the limits of science, and an example of the ways in which human ingenuity can create something that defies explanation. The shroud's place in the modern world is as complex as ever. While some may seek to prove its authenticity, others remain content to appreciate it as a symbol of faith and mystery. The shroud continues to inspire awe and wonder, and it serves as a reminder of the limits of human knowledge. Whether it is a relic of Christ's burial or a product of the shroud's mystery will likely never be fully unraveled. And perhaps that is part of its beauty. The unanswered questions, the doubts, and the debates are all part of what makes the shroud such a compelling and enduring symbol. As the years go by and new technologies emerge, the shroud will likely continue to be studied and analyzed. Artificial intelligence, along with other advanced techniques, may provide new insights into the shroud's mysteries, but it is unlikely that any single discovery will provide a definitive answer. The shroud's mystery is one that may never be fully solved, but that is part of what makes it so compelling. It is a riddle that refuses to be answered, a symbol of the enduring search for truth in a world filled with uncertainty. And in this way, the Shroud of Turin remains not just a relic from the past, but a living enigma that continues to inspire and challenge all who encounter it.